everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of 10x Growth Strategies podcast. I'm your host, Arthi Vijayaraghavan, a product leader, an avid reader, and a book lover. Today, we have the author of Pause, Ms.Rachael O'Meara, with us. Rachel is an executive leadership coach, author, and a TEDx keynote speaker who helps corporate leaders rise to their next level and be at their best by mastering their emotional intelligence. She's also the co-founder of Sick Venture Studio, a biotech incubator for cancer therapeutics. Rachel's experience in sales and client services at Google have helped her have a pulse on what it takes to be successful and a thriving leader, meaning steering clear of stress and ruts, staying on a mission, and feeling great as you do it. That's very important. Her book, Pause, was one of the top business books for your career, and she's been featured in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Harvard Business Review. She also wrote Pause the Journal and has contributed to The Self-Aware Leader, a book for business leaders. One fun fact, Rachel now lives in Sarasota, Florida with her husband and will start hosting retreats this year. So at the end of the podcast, if you really feel like taking a pause, which I'm sure you'll do, you know who to contact. She also has a lot of helpful tips for us today on how to be more resilient and harness the power of pause in service to your doing. Thank you, Rachel. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast. Welcome. This is Sunday morning, and I think we're all refreshed and happy to listen to you. So tell us about pausing and why it is important to you as a high achiever, and most of our audience are high achievers or on the path to success, actually.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Arthi. It's lovely to meet you. And it's an honor to be here with your podcast. And I can tell you a little bit of how I found and discovered pause myself, because I really wasn't looking for it. I think like most of us, we're all busy doing our things as high achievers. In my case, I'll take you back a few years. I was at Google working in a manager role. I'd been there a couple of years and I was in client services, but things weren't really going that well for me. And I was getting feedback from my manager that I didn't have executive presence, that I wasn't a good communicator, that I wasn't delivering on some executable goals from a new team that I was leading. And so for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why I wasn't doing well. And I'd scratch my head, and every day I'd go walk down in San Francisco, Spear Street, and say, today is going to be different. Today I'm going to show them what I got. And I'm going to do great. And then somewhere around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or, some day part time, I'd feel like I was in that slump again, and something would happen, and maybe someone would look at me funny. And I thought, oh no, like I did something terrible, or that wasn't what I was supposed to say in the presentation, or I messed up that email. So it was always in my head. And then one day, my manager literally sat me down, and she had the best intentions for me. And she just said, Rachel, I don't know if this job is a fit for you. And that was my crucible moment where I really was surprised, because all my life, like probably everybody listening to this, I was a high achiever. I had an MBA. I'd worked in New York. I worked in San Francisco. I was a 6-time rowing national champion. And so I was used to doing really good, really well. And I went home that Friday and I realized, maybe I can take a break and take an unpaid leave. So I went back on Monday, I researched my case, I made my case, and I got approval because I'd been there for a while. And I took a 3-month unpaid break. And during that time, and I realized that's very fortunate, most of us don't have that luxury at all. In fact, only 4% of companies offer any kind of paid leave, and I think 8% have any kind of leave in the US anyway. And so I decided not to fill up my schedule. I decided to do something different where I was going to look at myself. And I had no training, by the way, in emotional intelligence, no mindfulness training. Like I was just an athlete and a business person. And those were fun things for me, but I wasn't doing well. So those 3 months went by and I realized, hey, maybe it's not the job, it's me, in that I'm the common denominator. So I did decide to go back to Google, but things were different. And what I realized was I was more present. I could have eye contact with someone in the hallway and really understand them and connect. And I had a ripple effect on my team. I went back to a new role. I joined a sales team. I found a new job, and I
Mm-hmm.
was aligning with my strengths, which I researched while I was on this pause. And I realized, hey, I am a good communicator. I am a net. I am able to connect with people. I can speak in technical terms and explain technology pretty well. I was a sales engineer. And so what I realized was, wow, I needed to take a shift. I needed to intentionally shift my behavior, and that's what a pause is. That's how I define it. And I stayed another 10 years. I actually only left about 3 years ago to work full time in my business now, Power of Pause. But what I realized was I needed to do something in service to my doing to do better and to do things differently because it wasn't necessarily the what I was doing, it was the how. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized I wasn't really present, RT. Like, I meaning I was always thinking in the future, like, what if
Yeah.
this, what are they going to say in this meeting? Or I was ruminating in the past, like, oh, I shouldn't have said this or that, or this meeting didn't go well. That guy looked at me funny in the hallway. So to me, that was how I discovered the pause. And I think all of us have our own version of this, but for me, I realized I don't have to keep suffering. I don't have to keep drudging through things, checking the boxes and feeling like I'm on a treadmill. I can actually show up, be present, and enjoy what I'm doing because I'm aligned. And to
Yeah.
me, that's what a pause does. It really helps you get in alignment. And it can be any length of time, it can be $0 or $1 million, and it can be any activity. It's just about what works for you.
So when you say any activity, right? When I read your book, I you speak very highly about journaling and how during your pause that helped actually, kind of come up with, hey, what are you good at? What are your strengths and stuff? So, before you go, like, let's look at, how did you first discover that five signs of someone needs a pause? And also when in during the pause, what is one or two things which you would ask them to do intentionally?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think so. First, we know that as a high achiever, as someone who's doing a lot of really incredible things in the world, working on your business, it is important to reflect. And I think of it almost like strategy. Like, what am I doing? How am I doing in it? I think a lot of times we leave ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing to do if you're intentionally shifting behavior is to check in with yourself. That is the first thing. So just ask yourself, how am I feeling? It sounds so easy. It sounds so obvious, but the reality is, do we really ask ourselves how we're feeling? Because we don't put words to feelings a lot of times. It's
Yeah.
just there, or
Yeah.
we're on autopilot. But here's what happens and this is what I do with my emotional intelligence clients right now is I help them and train them to connect the mind and body so that those feelings is data, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable. So even just knowing how you're feeling moment by moment, once a day can be very powerful because you might notice a trend like every day you're feeling fear. I'm
Hmm.
nervous, like I feel anxiety. Those are all fear to me.
Yeah.
And so that's data. So what does that mean? What is that telling me? Well, maybe I'm not trusting myself, or maybe I'm not all in on what I'm doing. So to me, that's a big, big part of it is how am I doing? In my pause, I didn't have any training to know how I felt, but I knew that I wasn't happy. And like, so I was almost the opposite. So even if you don't know how you're feeling, how are you not feeling is also data too. So I know I'm not happy. I know I'm feeling burned out. Those are all really good points because it's a starting point. You can't go to anywhere unless you know where you are.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, right? And then I think the second thing, like you said, is do some things that bring you joy. Now, a pause can be any activity. It can literally be a breath. So, like right now with me, if you want to just take a breath with me, well, we can try this. I have
Hmm.
a whole list of daily pauses, but you can, put your feet on the floor, uncross your legs and arms, and just right now take a breath through your nose if you can, and then exhale it at any pace. Open your eyes if they were closed. And maybe ask yourself, do you feel different? Like right now, I could tell you I feel different. That's that state shift, that nervous system shift. It doesn't need to take a lot of time, but it's something that works for you in the moment. So to me, that's the other thing. It's like, what is it that will serve you now? And then ask yourself, and now, and now, and now, like later. And So it might just be a breath. It might just be looking out your window and seeing the beautiful sun hitting the tree leaves.
Yeah, yeah,
And longer pauses are also options. I have a whole kind of type of pauses, but the idea is that you are learning about yourself. So this is an inquiry into who am I now? What am I? Where am I going? And how am I feeling? So that I can service myself and feel aligned. Because usually when we're feeling a little off kilter, or we're not feeling, maybe we're exhausted because we do so much, something's out of alignment. That is a sign, a cue to know that something could be different. And the pause can get you there. Does that
yeah.
answer your
Yeah,
question?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe one thing I can share, right?
Yeah.
I've been intentionally doing this for some time. So one of the ways I pause is, as I've been doing these podcasts, I don't do anything for say 20 minutes before the podcast. Meaning, I'm only focused on the podcast. I kind of go through what I want to ask, or what is the main focus of the podcast. I write it down, and then 5 to 10 minutes before the podcast, I don't do anything else. I don't even think about the podcast. I'm just here with my setup and intentionally thinking about, okay, this is what I want the outcome of it, and be ready for it. And being in a space and actually being intentional about it helps me. And even for my work life, um, I know you talk about actually someone who has this thing where if they don't start working on Sunday afternoon, they kind of feel jittery. I'm one of those people. So, but I don't call it working on Sunday afternoon. Rather, it is more for me to orient myself. Like, I just look at, hey, what are three or four most critical things which we need to get done this week? How can I be present for those things? Just planning it out. Just thinking about, hey, these are four things which I want to get done. What is the outcome I'm driving towards? Being intentional or writing about it helps me actually.
Hmm.
So that is something which I thought I'll share with with you guys
What a
as.
powerful example, and kudos for taking time. To me, that's strategic. That
Yeah.
is strategic planning, and it's about what works for you. So Sundays I want to orient, I want to align, I want to get my ducks in a row. And awesome. Someone else may be like, Sunday's my family time. I'm not doing anything till Monday. And so that's okay. It's all good. It's about what works for you. And I love that you did that. And then, in my case, for me, I have a ritual that I adopted from Brendan Burchard, who's a high performance coach. You might have heard of him. He's written 7 books. He's one of the best sellers, one of the biggest coaches out there, like a Tony Robbins. But he has this ritual where on Sunday he goes through a checklist and goes through and he rates himself on different
Yeah.
things. How's he doing? How was I as a mom? How was I as a sister? How was I as a CEO? And so to me, that's a wonderful ritual. I think rituals are a pause as well. It's intentional and it's a
Mhm.
shift in behavior. So whatever works for you is, I think, very important to know it. And that's why you're the only one who can know it. And that's why a pause is so critical, because no one can tell you what's going to work for you except for yourself. So if you're not pausing to know, how is anyone going to know? How are you going to know? Because I think we just miss things. We're going through life 100 miles an hour. There's lots happening. And if we aren't able to be aware, so that's the presence,
Yeah.
like you're like in sitting with yourself for 5 minutes, we miss the messages we might get inside on our own intuition. We miss potential opportunities and
Mhm.
all other things. And to me, it's like gateway for understanding what your potential is and how you can 10x your strategies like you do on this podcast.
Yeah. 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 So how do you take daily pauses in your life? Like, what are, two things which you do daily as a ritual?
Yeah, 2 things daily. So first off, I think it's important to acknowledge pausing's okay. And I can tell you, I bet you there's maybe one person who's listening right now or more who's probably challenging or feeling the resistance. Like, I don't need to pause. That's not for me. I'm great. Like, I'm doing great. I'm high velocity. I'm crushing it. Da 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 da. Whatever you're telling yourself. And I say awesome. However, it's in service to your doing. And
Yeah.
so the first thing is just to acknowledge, hey, and again, it doesn't need to take a lot of time. It could just be that breath. But whatever you decide to do, will serve you because you are the one who created it. So the first thing is just to know it's okay to pause, literally. Like to me, I think that's really understated because we think we'll look like slackers. We think we're gonna, not make the goals that we want to make because we're not in action. But research tells us that when we're able to take a step back and actually take a moment, whatever that pause might be for you, we do better. And it's just like, I think of athletes. I'm a rower. Although I'm injured right now with a shoulder injury, I think of uh, being on, well, for me, it's a boat. And if I just rode hard every day, or if I was a marathon runner and I ran hard every day, do you meet your goal? Do you get your best time? Heck no, right? Like we need to have those cycles that
Mm-hmm.
work for us, and we're cyclical creatures.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to know it's okay to pause. I'd say the second thing is I do think journaling is really important, whether it's through a ritual you create at the end of the day or the beginning of the day. And we've all heard of probably, well, maybe we haven't, but morning pages is a concept. There's actually a book out about it where you write for 2 minutes in the morning on anything. You just brain dump. That is even important because you're just not having to carry what you have in your head. And I want to mention there's research too here that when we write things down, literally with a pen, like I have a pen right here, and my
Yeah.
journal is like behind me. If I'm writing things down, my brain, my reticular active system, RAS, is actually functioning in a different way. So that means it knows it's important because it's seeing it and it's written down. So it's already registering in a different way. And then I'm getting thoughts that are what I'm thinking on paper, which will also be interpreted differently. So then I might get insights that I don't have otherwise.
Yeah.
How important is that, right? And there's research that shows after 4 minutes a day or 4 days for 2 minutes a day, mood improved with others
Mm-hmm.
who did that.
Yeah.
So I can't underscore how important it is to do something for yourself like that as a means for recognizing. I don't think you need to journal every day. I don't journal every day, but I think when I do it, I never say, "Oh, why did I do that?"
Yeah.
And that's the same for any pause. Oh, why did I do that? No, it's always in service to my doing is what I think about.
Yeah. My perspective, okay, when I read the book, we are always taught to be kind to others, right? So,
Hmm.
according to me, my take on pause is you're being kind to yourself, right?
Absolutely.
First thing is, like, as you said, is recognizing saying pausing is not actually making yourself, it's not slacking. It's not slacking. It's you making the most important person in your life, which is you, and being kind to yourself. So be kind to
Yeah.
yourself, pause, try to think about what is important to you, and use your ritual. That's kind of how I pick it, or that's kind of how I took
Yeah.
away from the book actually.
Oh,
And
I
one of
love
the
it.
things I do as a daily pause is again praying. And as you said, I don't think I write what I think, but I try to write something, just something,
Mhm.
even if it is copying from something else. As you said, writing kind of slows you down. It's not typing, it is much more intentional, and you are actually thinking about it. When you like, I think it's just the old school nature of us writing down
Yeah.
on pen and paper to get through the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, our brains are wired for
Yeah.
writing, and that's actually a strong neural connection. I work a lot with neuroscience. So I love that you do that and that you know that, and that was your takeaway. And I think for any of us to kind of ask that same question, what is it that works for you is a great way to start. Like what do you love to do that might be, in the past it's served you, and
Hmm.
maybe you haven't done it in a while. It can be a passion project. It doesn't need to be the writing side. And yeah, I think the biggest hurdle is knowing if you do feel resistance, that's probably a big sign you could use a pause
Yeah.
because there's some fear that is showing up where it might be a challenge. Like it is scary to slow down. Let's face it,
Yeah.
because you're with yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
right? And you're like, okay, now what? Like this isn't comfortable. I hate being, and then you realize how maybe there is discomfort and there is, maybe feelings that are not uncomfortable, like you're sad or angry, maybe there's just hurt. I don't know, whatever there is, it's okay because it's you, right? And so that kindness can be reflected in that, and journaling can be so powerful in that way. But I also think, yeah, it's about what is that that's gonna help you in service to all of the things that you're doing, like you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. So, you said you work a lot on emotional intelligence as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you, and how does it relate to not burning out? Like,
Yeah.
I know EQ is a skill, or it's one of the superpowers nowadays, which you need to have in order to get things done. So, what does that mean, and how do you help people with their emotional intelligence?
Yeah. So let me define it here kind of in a broad way. We've all heard this. It's a huge buzzword, right? EI, EQ, emotional intelligence. So it came up in business about tw almost 30 years ago with Daniel Goleman writing his book
Hmm.
called Emotional Intelligence. It actually was an economic term way before that, in how you work with markets from Sullivan and Mayer. But the definition that Goleman uses and I like is it's the ability to be self-aware and present while being with others so that you're regulating your emotions, being able to also be with others and understand how you're feeling in relationship to what's going on around you. And to me, there's a whole lot of depth to that. And there's different competencies in emotional intelligence. But the reason why this is so important, it's one of the top skills that is looked for in interviews by recruiters or leaders, like senior leadership teams, is it's the ability to be aware of what your blind spots are, really, I think, and then understand how you're feeling. Because, like I said, we're designed to feel, whether you're a CEO or an intern. We're human. All 8 billion of us on the planet are designed to feel. And so it is a superpower because a lot of us aren't trained in this. I
Yeah.
know I wasn't. And
Hmm.
why I burned out was because I didn't know how bad things were because I wasn't in touch with how I was feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
Like I would break down crying in a bowl of pasta at night with my partner, and I just thought that was like feeling upset. But right now, if I look back at that, I know in my world I was really, really sad. Things weren't going better, obviously. I felt a lot of fear, right? What happens if I get fired? What happens if I don't succeed? What if I fail? These are things that aren't conscious, but they're unconscious, but they're driving everything. They're driving your thoughts, feelings, and behavior, and they're all interconnected. The good news is you don't have to believe your thoughts, but emotional intelligence, what I really value and what I did in my own inner work and working through my master's in transformational leadership and coaching, and now this is what I help other people do, is that you learn more about yourself so that you can show up in incredible ways, whether that means the ability to bounce back, like resilience,
Hmm.
whether it means the way that you communicate, the way you read a room, so you know and feel what's going on because you can sense it. There's no words that do that, but you're able to pick up on it in whether it's a one-on-one conversation or a presentation you're giving to 100 million people. So
Nice.
to me, I learned that skill, and if I can learn it, anyone can learn it, but it makes you stronger. It makes you more marketable, more resilient, and you're going to be so much happier, I think, as a person because you're connected to yourself. So you get to know yourself in a way that probably hasn't been known yet in your life. And to me, that's awesome. Like that's what it's all about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. I think that's very key as well, and I'm seeing that in day to day in a lot of leaders. And as you said, that is one of the paths to success, right? It is more about connection, human connections, and how do you establish that?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what business is about. How do you do that? How do you actually move a lot of people to what your goal is actually?
Yeah, and I'll jump in because when I founded Sick Venture Studio, so that was our biotech startup in Silicon Valley,
Hmm.
uh, and my job was to help the leaders. So I didn't have the bio background. I was a salesperson. I was a techie. I was, doing things that were not specific to medical or bio. But what I would do is coach the founders and help them close deals, get revenues, make investment, like get investment money, because or help them with their teams, because that's part of emotional intelligence as well. Like if you're not able to connect with someone and build trust,
Hmm.
then how are you going to get your funding?
Yeah.
Right? And so to me, it's the baseline, it's the foundation and core for anything that you want to do, and you can always get better. I don't care if you're like, Daniel Goleman yourself, you can still get better. I'm sure he knows that.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
And
So,
me too. I know I can get better.
yeah. I and In terms of I know you mentioned some freebies for our listeners. Can you share what it is? That's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, I have a free guidebook that's a great start to this. It's called Three Keys to Avoid Burnout and Thrive. So you
Hmm.
can go to my website, rachelomeara.com. You can just Google Rachel Pause book or something. It'll come up. My name's got a lot of vowels. rachelomeara.com, and then the free gifts on that front page. You can download it. It's a PDF, but it talks about those five feelings, talks about why we burn out, how not to burn out, and it's a great start. It's like 20 pages or something. So that's something you can check out. And I also have a podcast called the Pausecast.
Nice,
So
nice.
feel free to find me. I come out every week, weekly episode on Tuesday mornings, usually in the US here. And I invite anyone who's interested to learn more about this to check that out and get the guidebook. Because if you get the guidebook, you're going to get some more data and you'll get on my list for the podcast subscription. So you'll know when they come out and everything.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you. That's really good. We'll check it out and I'll sure attach it in the show notes as well.
Oh, good.
Cute.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure having you, Rachel. I think we all learned a lot. And, as you said, you don't have to have a lot of time to have pause. A pause can be as simple as a breath, and be kind to yourself. Looking forward for our listeners to do more meaningful pauses and actually being able to, utilize that to be better themselves. So thank
Thank
you,
you,
Rachel,
Arthi.
so much for sharing all your insights. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and you're so welcome.
Until then, thank you, listeners, for listening in. Go check out actually emotional intelligence as well. We have done a podcast on it, and check out Rachel's website and also her PDF on pausing meaningfully. Until then, signing off. This is your host Arthi Vijayaraghavan from 10x Growth Strategies broadcast. I appreciate everyone over here. Thank you so much.